Hello, you're welcome to Africa Weekly. Energy challenge in Africa remains a critical one. The pace of development across many countries on the continent rests squarely on the availability of power supply either for industrial use or household utilization. The alternative available in renewable energy is what this edition of Africa Weekly will examine. Of course, a series on the 2023 election in Nigeria is also part of this package. My name is Justin Bemu and I welcome you to the program. Renewable energy is fast proving to be the energy source that has the potential to liberate Africa and indeed Nigeria from the shackles of energy poverty and give the continent the opportunity to truly realize its potential.
To give you an idea of some of the figures, Nigeria has a potential of between 8,000 and 10,000 commercially viable mini-grid sites. By a study done, I think by the Rural Electrification Agency, REA. So let's assume that a site, let me just assume a site, average of 100 kilowatts at about $250,000. I'm just using numbers, average. So multiply by 10,000. That's the potential for the mini grid. And also, that report also went further to say an annual investment of about between 9.6 to $10 billion is required in that sector. Okay? Annual investments. Another figure we're hearing is another, a statistic that you can use to ascertain the potential of investment in there is that currently Nigeria spend an average of about $15 billion every year to power their generators. This is a report done by Central Bank of Nigeria. So if you are providing an alternative technology that will displace this fuel for generators, that means you have a potential market of $15 billion annual to displace generators and install renewable energy. Okay, so and finally, Nigeria is seen as the biggest and most commercially viable market for investment in renewable energy in sub-Saharan Africa. Why? Because we have the highest number of people not having access to energy. All right, and they are powering themselves one way or the other. Some are using kerosene lantern, some are using candle, some don't even have. They go to bed when darkness comes, right? And so these are potential opportunity to power those people. So the market size is really is the biggest in Sub-Saharan Africa anywhere we go to. So that's opportunity for investment.
Cost effectiveness of solar. I know we mentioned something. Not everybody needs a mini grid. You can start as small as 20,000 naira, depending on your power needs. You understand? But in the long run, we have seen that solar is more effective. For example, a customer shared with me on our radio show Power Solutions. He said, look, he has his office in a plaza somewhere around Lekki, and every month he spends 150,000 naira plus on and probably maintenance of the generator to run his business, and that's a lot of money. But he signed up to one solar solution from Energy, and that drastically reduced the cost of his he spends on power. So that 150,000 a month, he doesn't need to spend it anymore, and multiply 150,000 times 12 and see how much the man has saved. And when I asked him how happy he is with the solution he got, in fact, his excitements were beyond words.
In Kigali, Minister of Environment Mohammed Abdullahi, who attended the International Union for Conservation of Nature Congress in Rwanda, made a case for measurable, elaborate and sovereign action to meet the 25% nature conservation target for Africa.
First, I think we need a very strong
Minister of Environment Mohammed Abdullahi advocates the prioritizing of nature conservation in the national development plans of African nations in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. This, he says, is needed for the expansion and preservation of protected areas to combat climate change, reduce losses in biodiversity, and build the resilience of people whose livelihoods depend on natural ecosystems.
We need a broad stakeholder engagement from the community to the youth to the elders and in fact to law enforcement, so that we can begin to look at nature conservation as a moral obligation for each citizen of the country.
The conference is also seeking an end to the dependence on foreign donors, encouraging African leaders to look inwards for the funding of protected areas and biodiversity conservation.
The protected areas we are talking about, these are actually being designed before by the colonialists before they left. Maybe we haven't done enough. We haven't grown the space. We need to grow the space, but our people must be in the center of this space.
And if we do not protect 30% of our landmass at this time, I think we will be ending up in a catastrophe very soon.
Stakeholders believe that protected areas, if expanded and conserved, can provide millions of green jobs for the continent.
And 4 years after drought, water is running again in villages of Cape Town, South Africa. This report shows you how the residents in the city are coping.
This area looked like a desert 4 years ago. At the time, Cape Town faced the most severe drought in its history, and the Teerwaterskloof Dam was dry. Today, city water stocks are close to their maximum capacity. But behind these mountains, in the city's biggest and poorest township, Khayelitsha, water is still a scarce commodity. Shadrach Mogres is stocking up for the next water cut.
As a daily routine.
He always keeps this 100-litre drum full in case the taps run dry.
It is actually worse. It is worse now because we knew at that time that we're sitting with a problem here, with a water problem. But it is actually worse than that because we do have water and we know that. We do have water, but it happens worse than it happened when there was a drought.
The only water points in settlements here are attached to toilets built by the city. When one goes dry, residents walk until they find the next working one. The township is home to hundreds of thousands of people. Every week their number swells with new arrivals from the countryside, looking for a better life. The city says it's simply too difficult to keep up with the influx.
During the period of COVID-19, at least 70 new illegal informal settlements have been erected across our city in the space of a few months. 70 new illegal informal settlements. And the city then is expected to provide basic services to those settlements, which is difficult to do.
But in-migration is only partly the issue, according to Professor Joe Barnes, a community health expert at the University of Stellenbosch.
Part of that is outside the control of the city, but this has been going on for the last 30 years, and I have actually seen very little forward planning to cope with these people. It seems to me as if they thought if they just leave it alone and let them settle where they were, and it is unpleasant, that they will go back.
South Africa is the world's most unequal country, according to a new World Bank report. Aging infrastructure and an increase in droughts expected over climate change will put a lot of pressure on future water supply in Cape Town. Those who suffer most will be the poor.
Political parties in Nigeria have concluded their vice presidential candidate nomination process, now effectively setting the stage towards electioneering process ahead of the 2022 presidential election in Africa's largest economy.
A great party, the unity of purpose, the togetherness for success is what we believe in. And is what we do, to use our diversity for prosperity and not an instrument of division.
We are in no doubt that Aswai has found an able, competent, patriotic, compatriot who will support him. Country Shedima is going to offer honest, sincere, independently verifiable advice that will put the betterment of our country.
Bearing in mind that the country requires competent, credible, empathetic, courageous, and God-fearing leaders, I came to the conclusion and therefore present you a rare Nigerian that very appropriately fit these requirements. We take liberty at using every available opportunity to make the difference so as to earn the trust and confidence of Nigerians yearning for good governance and a qualitative leadership.
We must ensure that this country is secure, this country is united, and this country is productive. We have committed to turning all those vast land in the north into the oil of the future.
Now joining us to discuss issues of voter mobilization for the election is Dr. Mike Emu. He is the chairman, Host Communities Development of Nigeria. Well, Dr. Emu, I thank you so much for joining us on Africa Weekly.
Thank you very much, Nigerians, viewers, and listeners.
Yes. Now, we're talking about voter mobilization for the 2023 election. But first and foremost, can you give us your perspective on the processes leading to the emergence of the presidential candidate of the various political parties in Nigeria?
Basically, Nigeria did well by borrowing democracy, practicing democracy, the government of the people, for the people, by the people. And the issue of INEC registering political parties and the parties they conducted the primaries. Whatever happened, the primaries were conducted, and there were nothing like bloodshed in the primary. Fighting and destroying ballot boxes were not practiced. Though there were some mistakes here and there, based on the issue of selling and buying of voters, votes, and which is extremely wrong. What of it was that votes were sold and purchased with dollars. What happened to our currency, the naira? And thank God that the federal government, EFCC, decided to wade into it. But looking at the primaries were quite okay. The APC has come out with Bola Tinubu. Of the progressive, and PDP came out also with article that is of the conservative, okay. And we are still looking at maybe Labour and others that are coming out as members of the Republicans. We talk about the conservative, the progressive, and the Republicans, and they are all now, we don't know who and who will be coming on board. In the first place, I must sincerely appreciate Nigeria that the primaries were conducted free and fair.
Well, how important do you think the 2023 presidential election is to Nigeria?
How important? I think that the presidential election will be to Nigerians. Nigerians have the right to actually elect whosoever they know that we have what it takes to diffuse positive innovation as a homogenic innovation diffusionist that can actually build the economy, join hands with us who support the building of this country to become a great country. We need presidential candidates or those who emerge, the person who is going to emerge as the president to be someone who has something at stake, someone who can actually diffuse innovation, someone who is well-read, who is well-experienced, somebody who has the fear of God, who have the interests of the suffering masses of Nigeria at the back of their mind. We discovered that over 35 million of Nigerian youth are not employed, and you see a lot of problems that we are graduating over 41,000 graduates every year, and 10,000 cannot be employed. So we need a president that will actually have the interests of the suffering masses, interests of the unity, peace, and progress of this country. So Nigerians will come out by February next year when the elections will take place to elect who they know that will be able to actually pilot the affairs of this country.
What the cause of having that the issue of low voters turnout in election in Nigeria remains a challenge. How do we ensure that there is enough mobilization for the 2023 election?
I think that in terms of progress, we are growing in the numbers of people who are having PVC now. The number have outgrown what we used to have before, and now that it has become a challenge to Nigerians to really come out to cast their votes. The problem we have is the problem of insecurity, but I believe that Nigerian police and the federal government, the army, the federal government will come up, will sit up to make sure that they give assurance, guarantee security during the time of election. Nigerians are going to come out. We saw what happened in Ekiti. We saw what happened in Osun, that Nigerians, we all came out. Ekiti that produced the highest number of professors in Nigeria and in West Africa. You saw, we witnessed what happened in Ekiti, and the masses that came out in Osun State. I believe that Nigerians will come out to really cast their votes. Those who have their PVC is still on, and I think we are increasing. Nigeria is getting matured, and we are growing in terms of democracy.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike Emu. Thank you so much for having time to come on the program Africa Weekly. Once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, NTA.
Well, that has been Dr. Mike Emu, the Chairman, Host Communities Development of Nigeria. The program continues in a moment. Do stay with us. A multi-agency detection program on countering terrorism travel designed to respond to threats of terrorism and criminal activities across different borders has been initiated by the United Nations Office for Counterterrorism. The collaboration is to prevent criminals from evading detection by law enforcement agents.
3 years ago, the UN Office on Counterterrorism estimated that over 40,000 foreign terrorist fighters from more than 110 countries may have crossed different borders to join terrorist groups in some countries. Since then, a counter-terrorism travel program to assist nations in building their capacity to detect criminals by collecting and using advanced passenger information and passenger name record data have been launched. The whole idea is to improve the use of international databases to checkmate terrorist activities across the globe.
We're concentrating on the airline industry, but we could also envision providing the support for the maritime industry as well, because we need to respond to the threat of broken travel, where terrorists and serious criminals will use different types of modes of transport.
Leading the collaboration is the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, responsible for regulating air travels in Nigeria.
So it not only improves security, it helps with facilitation. And also for us in aviation air transport, it gives us data.
There's a package we call Suspect Index. Suspect is a watch list. And through that database, our system is able to synchronize and give us alerts that this is person of interest.
The counter-terrorism travel program is expected to extend to other modes of international travels, including marine and rail.
That's our package this week. I thank you for being a part of it. My name is Justin Bemungi.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTA. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International. Your window through the world.
Welcome to Africa, the land of ancient civilization.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory in for SWU. This is Africa 54.
As inflation continues to rise, small businesses and households across South Africa feel the squeeze from soaring food and fuel prices. Ghana's health service rushes to reduce the spread of Marburg virus following an outbreak in Ghana's Ashanti region. And a community group in rural Zimbabwe makes reusable sanitary towels to keep girls in school.
Well, small businesses and households across South Africa are feeling the squeeze from soaring food and fuel prices as the country's inflation continues to rise. Paul Diho explains.
Across Africa, consumer inflation is soaring. Like many nations on the continent, South Africa is dependent on imports for food.